Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Kaltenbach, and this is the Tennessee Native Plant Society seminar for October 2025. And uh, our seminars, beyond being enjoyable and fun, because who doesn't like to get together and talk about uh, native plants, uh, fulfill a critical aspect of our mission to educate. And we educate ourselves and share this knowledge with others. And ultimately, it leads to the protection of Tennessee's natural environment. And Tennessee really needs TNPS because Tennessee is one of the richest and most diverse ecosystems in the country, if not the world. And our seminars bring top experts in the native plant field, making the highest quality content available to our community. And our presenter tonight embodies this dynamic. He is Eli Harris, and he is a graduate student at Tennessee Technological University, Tennessee Tech, in Cookeville, Tennessee. And Eli is a graduate teaching assistant in the Department of Biology, and he supports undergraduates learning and does lab instruction and mentorship for them. And the focus of Eli's work and his research is botany and floristics. And his research is centered on plant diversity in the Window Cliffs State Natural Area in Putnam County, Tennessee. But Eli doesn't limit himself to formal research. He's also an active field botanist and naturalist, and he's recognized among his peers for his commitment to advancing botanical knowledge, and he blends research, teaching, and public science outreach. So he's a very active person in the field of native plants. Before I turn the microphone over to Eli, I want to point out, though, a resemblance between what I've noticed as Eli's commitment to teaching and mentoring other students and the inspiration behind the Tennessee Native Plant Society University Scholarship Program. And if you'll look in our upcoming December newsletter from TNPS, you're going to see an introduction and an explanation about our University Students Awards. And they target investing in students who are planning to do the kind of work that Eli is doing right now. And it's a fulfillment of our mission of education. And this is a new way of doing it, a new approach to it. It's a very concrete and effective way to educate the public and preserve our Tennessee native plants. Okay, so I'll turn it over to you, Eli. And we're very interested and we're very fortunate to have you with us tonight, obviously. So we're looking forward to this.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tim, for having me, and thanks to the entire Tennessee Native Plant Society for the invitation to come and present some of my research. This research I've been conducting since the beginning of 2024. I started the graduate program at Tech, and I should finish this research and have my thesis and graduate in the spring of this upcoming year. So the title of my presentation and thesis is The Vascular Flora of Window Cliffs State Natural Area. Oh, let's see. All right. So Window Cliffs State Natural Area, it is a natural area that is located in southwestern Putnam County, and it's around 275 acres large, or 111 hectares. That would be the metric. That's what the scientific community wants, the metric. Window Cliffs, it does lie between the Eastern Highland Rim, which this is a physiographic province mainly characterized by deeply dissected limestone terrain. Since the state acquired Window Cliffs, the site has been managed by Burgess Falls State Park, which oversees both public access and conservation of the area's natural resources. So in this slide, you can see this is a image of the main cliffs at Window Cliffs. This is what most people come to Window Cliffs to see. So you can see the limestone terrain. This viewpoint actually is not attainable when people go and visit the natural area. I shot this with a drone, but I had to get special permission to do that. But it's a really unique area. So the geology of Window Cliffs is very unique. So like I said, Window Cliffs lies within that eastern highland rim, and it features that narrow ridge enclosed by the meander of Cane Creek. So that ridge was the picture that I had on the previous slide. And I can show you what the meander is in the next slide. But this area exhibits a classic karst topography with calcareous soils typical of limestone regions. So the limestone at Windows Cliffs, it could be very similar to what we see down near the Central Basin of Tennessee. So the main ridge line is composed of Mississippian formations that were laid down during the Mississippian period. Now, the Mississippian formations, there's about 4 or 5 different types of formations or limestone that makes up the entire cliffs. And these include the Fort Payne formation, so that includes the Churty limestone, Warsaw limestone, that is limestone that has fossils, Chattanooga shale, and Cathy's formation. Cathy's formation is limestone with some shale included. Now, over time, we've had two processes that has occurred at Window Cliffs. We've had erosion and dissolution processes that has carved these distinctive natural arches for which the site is named. So in this top image on this slide, you can see this is one of the windows at Window Cliffs. So erosion and dissolution and degradation of that limestone has occurred to create that structure. Now, if any of y'all have ever been to Window Cliffs and you've been to the actual window, like depicted in this image, you can actually pick limestone right out of the bluff. That's how fragile this bluff line is. Very fragile, but it's constantly being weathered. It's constantly being degraded through these two processes. So continuing on the geology side of things, we do have a cave that is forming between Cane Creek and Phelps Branch. And it's forming due to this ongoing limestone erosion and stream incision. So in this slide, I included a screenshot of a map. So I circled the area where the cave is. So as the process continues of degrading the limestone in the stream incision, the actual stream may eventually breach through the ridge, rerouting the flow, leaving the upper meander loop dry. So where I drew the straight line, that's where the cave could potentially open and reroute the stream. So if this occurs, that would leave the entire meander loop that I have highlighted in yellow dry. Now, this is significant thinking about in a botanical sense, because between creek crossing 8 and 10, there is a lot of limestone seepage areas and there's bluffs, and there's a lot of unique plants between 8 and 10, the creek crossings. If that meander loop goes dry, plant communities could change, floristic diversity could be impacted because a lot of these species they depend on these limestone seepage areas that remain moist year round. So that's one thing that is very interesting to me. But who knows when this process will take place? It may be 100 years, thousand, who knows? But that is something that was talked about in recent papers. So Window Cliffs, it does have a vast human history. So there is a lot of history about Window Cliffs. So in the early 18th century, a naturalist from France, Charles Alexander Lesueur, visited Window Cliffs, and while he was there, he sketched the bluffs, the actual bluff line. And he referred to that as King Creek Bluff. Now, this sketch is in a museum in France to this day. Now, I tried to get a photograph of this, and it was difficult to locate online. And even I talked to the park manager at Burgess Falls, and he even said that the museum wanted to maybe charge, to just to get a photocopy or just a scan of it. So that's hard to come by. But I did include a image on the left-hand side of Charles Alexander Lesueur. In 1881, the area gained more attention when Harper's Weekly published Jack and the Mountain Pink. So this was a story about a couple individuals that were at Window Cliffs. And they described Window Cliffs being as a rugged ridge with two prominent windows. So this on the right-hand side, this is what the front page of Harper Weekly's journal would look like. Now, in the early 1900s to about the 1970s, timber was being harvested around and at Window Cliffs because it was still in private ownership. The state did not own it at the time, and it was in private ownership. Now, ownership during that period included the Joe Scott family, and they owned 53 acres in the gorge. So they had three parcels of land, and the gorge would be up near the main cliffs. And that's one thing about Window Cliffs. Different families own different parcels. That's why that it was so difficult for the Tennessee State Parks to finally acquire the land for preservation purposes because it just wasn't one individual that owned all the land. So continuing the human history, and this is one thing that I did not know, and probably a lot of people don't know this. During the 1970s, Window Cliffs was evaluated for potential designation as a national natural landmark. And it was due to the geology and the biological features that Window Cliffs has. But no federal acquisition took place. So if this would have took place, Window Cliffs would have been under the authority of the National Park Service rather than the state parks. But that never did take place. So the state of Tennessee also was looking about designating the state as a state natural area, but efforts were constrained, mainly due to limited funding and the ownership. The people that owned Window Cliffs at the time, they had no interest or they had very limited participation about wanting to designate or sell the land to the state. Decades later, in 2016, the area was finally protected and opened to the public as Tennessee's 85th state natural area. Since then, it has been managed by Burgess Falls State Park, and now it has become a very, very popular hiking destination. Really, you can't go down there on a weekend without having the whole entire parking lot full of people. It's a very popular hiking spot. And there's a lot of things that are there for recreation. There's a waterfall, there's, the main cliffs. For botanists, there's a lot of interest. It's a really neat, unique, biodiverse area. Um, so prior to my study, there was some other botanical surveys conducted. Um, for instance, in 1889, Jonathan Edward Burr, he did a study at Window Cliffs and Burgess Falls, and he was looking at the forest community types. Mainly at Window Cliffs, he classified four community forest types. This was the mixed mesophytic forest, a beech forest, a lowland forest, and a tulip poplar oak hickory forest. Now, one thing about his study is that he mainly focused on woody vegetation such as trees and shrubs. He really didn't focus on any of the herbaceous plants. So he did record between 80 and 100 species, but no voucher specimens were collected. So the voucher specimens are not held in a herbarium where that I can go back and look at those. So that left a lot of the area still unverified, the flora. Now, my first point, Window Cliffs has unique geology and steep topography. With these two, the geology and topography, it does create microhabitats that support both diverse and rare plant species. So this picture that I took here on the right, this is a Monodarta species. So this would be one of your bee balms. And this was growing right off the side of a bluff, and I didn't get to collect, that because, if I would, I may have fell 200 foot,
Mhm.
And that's one thing about window cliffs. It's hard to survey a lot of the cliff environments because they're so high up and a lot of the plants are right on the edge. Um, so that was a limitation. Continuing on floristic studies, between 2016 and 2017, Sharon Kington was a graduate student at Tennessee Tech, and she conducted a partial floristic survey at Window Cliffs. During 2016 and 2017, she collected 381 species over 66 families. Her sampling differed from mine because she focused on three sites of Window Cliffs. Two were glade areas, so that was Pyburn Glade and Phelps Glade. And another area she collected was a riparian area. Um, so while Sharon's work provided me valuable preliminary data, large portions of the natural area were still left unsurveyed. So I think she surveyed probably with those three sites, it may have been 40 acres. So that left probably 200 plus acres still unsurveyed. And Sharon never did complete her thesis. So there was nothing really that I could reference um, to get, my study going besides her specimen she had in the herbarium. So during the last year of my undergraduate degree, I looked at Sharon's specimens in the Hollister Herbarium at Tech, and I identified the ones that were not identified. And that really laid the groundwork for the research that I am currently doing. So she did contribute a lot of information to me by those 381 species. Now, my research that I'm doing at Window Cliffs, it represents the first systematic site-wide floristic inventory at Window Cliffs. So I have surveyed a lot of window cliffs. I mean, I can't say that I surveyed all of it, but it's the majority. So I use two tools to help me locate areas of high habitat diversity. First, I used ArcGIS. So that's a software where that you can look at elevation, aspect. You can do a lot of stuff on there. Landfire data is free. And if you all, I don't know if you all are familiar with that, but it's a data set that's produced by the U.S. Forest Service. And this is where that you can get on and look at vegetation classifications. And that's what I did to determine um, potential sites that I wanted to look at. Um, so the data generated from my study hopefully will provide a strong foundation for the understanding the window cliffs floristic diversity, and it may, well, I hope it informs future conservation efforts. But here I included a screenshot of Landfire. Now, when you get on this website, this blue stream, that is Cane Creek. Now, the blue color, the key down here in the bottom, this is the Southern Interior Low Plateau Dry Mesic Oak Forest. So it tells you vegetation and ecosystem types. So if you all are ever going out botanizing and you want to find specific habitats, this is something that you can do totally for free, and everybody can do it. But that is a tool that I used in my research. Um, so I've talked about the cliff faces a little, but the cliff faces and the limestone seepage areas at Window Cliffs, they support a very high species diversity number because they have a variety of microhabitats that they can create. Certain things such as differences in moisture, difference in humidity, difference in substrate. All of those differences can be variable to these microhabitats. Now, among the habitats at Window Cliffs, we have one that's called the Appalachian Northern White Cedar Cliff Woodland. Now, this is a rare community type that is only restricted to calcareous cliffs in shaded north-facing slopes. So, in this one picture that I included on the slide, the top image, this is a picture of that community. This occurs on the northern side of Window Cliffs. On that side, it tends to always be cooler. It may be just a few degrees cooler than on the southern side of window cliffs. And, humidity may change and so forth within that. NatureServe, it classifies the Appalachian Northern White Cedar Cliff woodland as globally imperiled. So that's a G2 ranking. And across the entire range of the Southern Appalachians, there's less than 50 known occurrences of this ecosystem type. So window cliffs, it's very rare. It really has rare habitats um, that is present. Now, one point that I will add about that community type is that Thuja occidentalis, that would be the northern white cedar, it occurs in that community type. And that's where really the community type gets its name, the northern white cedar cliff woodland. But that community type provides a refuge for boreal relic species that were left during the ice age, the previous ice age. So that's the reason that these boreal relic species can persist because the environment is similar to what it is up north. In the northern white cedar, it's a northernly distributed species anyway. Really, you don't find it here in the south. Window Cliffs and Fall Creek Falls would be mainly the southernmost distribution for Thuja occidentalis. And that is a picture of the northern white cedar. It's a branch of one, and that's the second below image that I've included. These trees at Window Cliffs, they're really not that large. It's almost like they're stunted in a way, but they are very old. Really, I would be curious to see how old they actually are, but you would have to do some type of uh, dendrology work to really see how old they are. All right, so I did want to talk just a little about the methodology and the methods that I used. So this study built upon earlier inventories conducted by Burr and Kington. So during the 2024 field season, I went out on a biweekly basis and I conducted transects. And I conducted the transects over four primary areas. Each transect was approximately 300 feet in length, and they were spaced 100 feet apart to maximize, you know, visiting all these different communities. So during the 2024 season, I visited A, B, C, and D on the graphic on the right. In 2025, instead of doing transects, I incorporated the landfire data sets to really focus on those significant habitats that were underrepresented in my earlier surveys. So, using the systematic, targeted, opportunistic style sampling, that ensured that I got a comprehensive representation of all the vegetation types at Window Cliffs. So during 2025, I went and surveyed F, G, E, and H. So that's where that I've been focusing on 2025, whereas 2024 was focused more up near the main cliffs. All right. So a part of my project too is that I collect voucher specimens. So for each species or for each taxon that I collect, I would collect two specimens of each species. One specimen will be kept at the Hollister Herbarium at Tennessee Tech, while the second will be sent to the University of Tennessee at Knoxville and deposited in their herbarium for permanent curation. All specimens were collected with complete metadata. So for each one, I collected GPS coordinates, locality information, habitat notes, and I photographed each species. Now, I did create a iNaturalist project. And if you're interested in this, anybody can look up on iNaturalist and find this project. It's just floristic inventory of Window Cliff State Natural Area. So over the course of 2024 and 2025, I have documented or I have made 1600 observations, and I've documented over 518 species right at it. But I made this project because that allows Tennessee State Parks and TDEC to access all of my data that I've collected through Window Cliffs. Now, for the rare and endangered plants that I've found at Window Cliffs, I have specifically moved the coordinates for those species where that they're not known to collectors or people that would potentially poach those. But, I do have the coordinates on hand, but I've just kind of obscured those in the project. So now I wanted to, in the first half of this presentation, I wanted to focus more on the context of Window Cliffs, the history, the methods I used. And now I really want to focus on the rare and uncommon plants that I have come across at Window Cliffs. In Window Cliffs, it sure has a lot of unique and rare plants. It's very much surprised me how many I've come across. So probably the most significant find at Window Cliffs was Plantago cordata. So this is a common name, heartleaf plantain. So this belongs to the plant uh, plantain family. I'm not going to butcher the scientific names because I know I will in the families. But usually this occurs in calcareous seeps, along shaded stream margins, anywhere associated with limestone. That's a good place to look. Habitats that this plant grows in usually remain saturated year round. Now, this plant is very, very sensitive to water quality in any kind of hydrological disturbance. So a concern with this is with the amount of agriculture that is surrounding Window Cliffs, if farmers are putting fertilize and pesticides and so forth on fields, if that is running off into these seepage areas, if that degrades the water quality, that could absolutely cause the extinction of this plant at Window Cliffs. So that's a really big concern. Now, this species is endangered in Tennessee. NatureServe has classified it as an S1 species, meaning that this is a critically imperiled species. So it's very, very rare. Globally, so the G3 would indicate globally uh, vulnerable. So it's a species that they're watching globally for decline. But if you look at the NatureServe website for Plantago cordata, in every state that it exists, it is either like an S1 or an S2. all the states, they all almost have conservation statuses because of the threats, like I said, reduced water quality, sedimentation. So that can also come from agriculture. If people are tilling fields and, you know, if it comes a big rain, it can deposit silt in the rivers, and that can degrade the quality as well. So that's one thing with Plantego cordata. Now, this was a new county record, so it had never been recorded in Putnam County ever before. The population at Window Cliffs, it represents one of only a handful of documented occurrences in Tennessee. I think it occurs in maybe two other counties besides Putnam County, and they're more south of us. Um, Now, the population at Window Cliffs for this species is very small. I have counted less than 15 plants present. But I will say there is one bluff that I can see one plant growing on the edge. So that could be a, another population on top of the bluff. But the bad thing is the state of Tennessee doesn't own that land. So in the future, that could be an acquisition that they need to look at if there is a population there. And this is what the inflorescence looks like up at the top picture. So that's when the plant is flowering. And down here at the bottom, that's what the vegetative plant, or not vegetative, but that's what the plant looks like with leaves. As it gets longer in the summer and fall, the leaves get much larger. And I have a funny story to tell right quick. Whenever I first come across this species, I was thinking, that's a hosta. I really thought it was a hosta because the leaves looked like a hosta. And I posted it on Weekly's Flora of the Southeast on Facebook. And several people started saying, "Oh, that looks like Plantego cordata." And sure enough, I keyed it out with the dichotomous key, and that's absolutely what it is. So it's a really significant find. The second rare to uncommon species is Clematis cumberlandensis. So this is the Cumberland leatherflower. It's in the Ranunculaceae family, and usually you can find it around limestone, bluffs, woodlands, cove forests, stuff like that. But you can find it's really endemic. You know, it's growing along the Cumberland Plateau and the Eastern Highland Rim of Tennessee. Now, this species has not been formally ranked um, as endangered, but Alan Weekly's FloraQuest does note this species as being rare in the interior low plateau, which that's where Window Cliffs would be located. So I've included some photos of that. Yeah, that's a very unique species as well. Now this is Muhlenbergia cuspidata. Now, Plains Muhlenberg, this is a rare grass that occurs in Tennessee. It belongs in the Poaceae group, so that's the grass group. And it's growing along these dolomite and limestone cliffs. Often these plants are just very shallow rooted along these limestone bluffs. So it is endangered in Tennessee and it is critically imperiled in Tennessee. So that would be the S1 rank. But globally, it would be secure. So globally, it's not in any uh, it's not in a risk of becoming rare. or anything. It's pretty common globally. But this species occurs more in the Midwest, in the western states. But as you move into the eastern parts, it becomes more rare. Now, the images that I have put on this slide, you do see an image down here at the bottom from Philip Troball that shows a limestone pinnacle at Window Cliffs. This is the habitat that this plant would grow in. And usually it grows up here at the very top of the pinnacle. And I did take a picture of it, and that's the image that's on the right. Now, some people at Window Cliffs will go and jump and climb on the bluffs. And that's a threat to this species because as people walk on these bluffs or as they may jump and go from one end to the other, um, plants could be trampled, um, or plants could be dislodged from their limited substrate. Now, this population of Plains muhlenberg was already known prior to my study. That was one species that the state was already aware of. But to my knowledge, I think this is the only population of this grass in Tennessee. So it is quite rare. Um, the next uncommon species would be the southern blue monkshood. So you may have seen this, the same images. These are posted on the TNPS Facebook page. But this plant is in the Ranunculaceae family, and usually it's found in seepage areas with limestone, shaded slopes, limestone bluffs along the eastern highland rim, and also it's more uncommon in the Appalachian Mountains. So it's rare in the interior low plateau, but more uncommon up in the mountains. NatureServe ranks it as S3, so that would be it's vulnerable. So they're watching it for potential declines. Globally, it's apparently secure. So it seems like it's not declining. So that's a good thing.
Hey, Eli, that slide didn't advance there. We're still seeing the
Okay.
Muhlenberg. Yeah.
Okay. So do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So you see the southern blue monkshood?
Yes.
Okay. Good deal. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for letting me know.
Thanks.
But yeah, this would be rare to find, especially in the interior low plateau. But this was located in one of those seepage areas at Window Cliffs, and truthfully, it's probably blooming right now. And the threats with this, most of the threats would include altered hydrology. So again, it's got to have those seeps. Any changes to the water or anything like that could be, um, bad for it. And if if invasive species, it could definitely outcompete this. And that's one thing at Window Cliffs that there are a lot of invasives in some spots. So that's one thing that is kind of bad. All right. So the next one, and this one's pretty neat too. So this is Belphilia werfii. So this is Wolford's wood mint. So this is a rare mint that's in the Lamaceae family. And it's restricted to these calcareous slopes associated with limestone, and it occurs on the eastern highland rim in parts of the Cumberland Plateau. Now, this is an endangered plant we have here in Tennessee. It's rated as S1, so critically imperiled. This is also globally critically imperiled. So this is a very rare plant, and there's only a handful of known populations. Now, this plant is endemic to the interior low plateau. Endemic meaning that that's the only place that it occurs. And this species was only known to exist down near DeKalb County, along the Caney Fork River. And a few years ago, Dr. Sean Krosnick and her field botany class, they documented a new population at Appalachia Craft Center. And recently, this is a new population for Tennessee. So instead of having one population, now it's expanded to be more. And this was a county record too for Putnam County. So here's some images. I didn't get, these were some images that I took without the blooms, but you can see in the images that it was very close to blooming. Um, but that was another significant find. So Stewartia, so this is the mountain camellia. This species really, it's not endangered, it's more uncommon to rare to find it on the interior low plateau. You find it more uncommon up in the Appalachian Mountains. But this occurs as a small tree or a shrub, and it's native to the southern Appalachia region. And NatureServe ranks it as an S4. So that's apparently secure. So in Tennessee, it's apparently secure. Globally, it's also apparently secure. So it's not got any kind of formal state sensitive or threatened rank here in Tennessee.
That slide didn't advance either.
Oh,
Eli.
really?
Yeah,
Okay, now?
no, there it is. Stuartia ovata?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't I guess I'll have to check before I start progressing. But
Right.
but yeah, this one it's not I mean to find it on the interior low plateau, it would be it is rare to find it in that Providence, but in the mountains you can find it commonly. And I've found this species before down at Burgess Falls State Park as well. So let's see. Did it advance that time?
No,
Hmm. All right. Okay, what about now?
there it is. Southern maidenhair fern.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so southern maidenhair fern. So this is a fern in Paradise, and it grows on these moist calcareous cliffs and seepage bluffs. And this is another plant that constantly relies on moisture. It needs that water to essentially sustain itself. Now, this was another one that has no state rank in Tennessee. It's globally secure, but Weekly's FloraQuest, he's considered this species to be rare on the interior low plateau. You can also find this species at Rock Island State Park. They have similar habitat with the limestone seepage areas down near the waterfalls. Um, but the southern maidenhair, this also occurs at Window Cliffs. Now, this species does face several threats. And I can understand the hydrological disturbance with the water quality and the hydrology. But over harvesting was one thing that really caught me off guard. I didn't realize this. But this species is one that people will commercially harvest to use for ornamental and medicinal uses. And upon reading more about this, it's estimated that 150 to 300 pounds of this plant is collected annually for those two uses, ornamental and medicinal uses. So that's pretty wild. And I'm really not sure what they use for the medicinal use for that. Let's see, did it advance now?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try it this way and see if it does better now. So this species is a Serum canadense, and it's a variety acuminatum. So this is Hydra ginger. That's the common name. It's in the Aristolochaceae family, and it's characteristic of rich deciduous forest. So if any of y'all ever go to the wildflower pilgrimage up in the Smoky Mountains in the spring, this is a species that you find pretty common up there. But to find it in the interior low plateau of Tennessee, it's rare to find. Now, it has no state rank, so it's not ranked, but weekly considers it rare. Now, you may all be familiar with Canada wild ginger, so that would just be a Serum canadense. This taxon differs from that by its long acuminate calyx lobes. So as you can see in the larger image, see how the calyx lobes are really long and pointy? So that would be Hydra ginger. Now, this species also has another variety. It's a Serum canadense variety reflexum. With that, instead of the calyx lobes being pointed, they're more reflexed and they're bent backwards. And that one's more common around here than the Hydra ginger. Um, Dryopteris celsa, this is the log fern in the Dryopteridaceae family. Typically, this is found in swampy, calcareous limestone woodlands. Again, it has no state rank, but it is considered to be secure or apparently secure globally, according to NatureServe. But FloraQuest, it does consider it to be rare. So that's why I did include it in this part of the presentation. And populations of this fern, they were observed up Phelps Branch. That's really the only place that I observed these ferns um, at Window Cliffs. The next species is Spiranthes ovialis and variety Aristillata. This is the lesser lady tresses. So this is an orchid. I'm a big fan of orchids. I love orchids. But this one specifically, it you can find it in swampy areas, bottomland forests, and really this has no state rank. And NatureServe has classified it as T4. T4 means a variety, um, and 4 would just indicate apparently secure. Weekly, he has described this as being uncommon um, in the interior low plateau, so it's not rare, but it is uncommon to find. All right, Thuja. Thuja oxentalis. So this is already one that I've talked about a little bit. The habitat, like I said before, it's the limestone cliffs and the talus slopes, mostly on the northern side of Window Cliffs. Now, there is no state rank for this species, but it is an S3, so it is vulnerable with a global rank of G5. Now, this population was known to exist before my study, and really, this was a species that the state looked at, and that's really why that they wanted window cliffs because of this boreal relic population of Thuja. But this is a very, very neat one. All right. Parnasa grandifolia. So this is the big leaf or large leaf grass of Parnassus. This is another one that is found in the limestone seepage areas in the calcareous seeps. So this is still dependent on that groundwater and the constant saturated soil and the constant moisture. Todd Crabtree in his rare plant list, he has listed this as S. That would indicate that this is a sensitive species in Tennessee. It is ranked an S3, which would be it's vulnerable. And this is one that it's G3, so it's vulnerable globally. At Window Cliffs, one thing I wanted to mention right quick is if you look at the larger image on the right, the larger leaves that you see in the middle of the image, that's the leaves of the grass, the big leaf grass of Parnassus. You can see all these other plants around that. At this one population of Parnassus, there is presence of Rosa multiflora, there's presence of invasive species, and if something is not done, especially at this spot, it could wipe out this population of Parnassa. But they are located up on a high bluff, so it would make it difficult to get up to those, some of them. But invasives are definitely a concern with that. All right, so I've got two more vascular species. So this one is the large flowered valerian. So this blooms in the spring. It's in the Valerinaceae family. Typically, it's found in nutrient-rich alluvial forest. It's not state ranked. No, no state rank. It is vulnerable with the S3, with the global secure or apparently secure with the G4. Um, Really, this species, it also occurs high up on bluffs and in places where the general public can't get to for the most part. So really collection is not a big deal, but always invasive species encroachment could definitely cause a problem. One neat thing about this species is I discovered a notably large population of well over 200 individuals at Window Cliffs. So it was a very significant find. And if you want to see more pictures of the population, I did post those on iNaturalist in that project. So y'all should be able to find that if you're interested. The last vascular plant will be the Appalachian barren strawberry. So this is in the Rosaceae family, typically found in moist deciduous forest and along shaded stream banks. It is rated G5, so it is secure across the global range, but Weekly has classified it as rare in that interior low plateau. At Window Cliffs, the population for this species is pretty small. I haven't discovered many vegetative plants for that. So hopefully nothing will happen to those. Now, I do want to talk about two non-vascular plants very quick that is more rare. So this is Marchantia polymorphia. So this is the green tongue liverwort. Habitat is just growing on moist rocks along streams, So I found this at one of the stream crossings at Window Cliffs. So it does have a status of S2, so that would be an imperiled status. So it is rare, but globally it's secure. One of the threats that I just wanted to note is that as people walk across creek crossings at Window Cliffs, somebody could step on this population, which could definitely damage the thallus, the body of the liverwort, and that's something that could happen. But I've only encountered this at one creek crossing at Window Cliffs, this specific species. And the last rare plant or non-vascular plant I'll talk about is handsome woolly-wort. This is a species that you can find in shaded deciduous forest. Um, it's currently listed as S3, so it's vulnerable with a G5. It's globally secure. At Window Cliffs, several colonies of this was observed near trail edges. So it is a risk that visitors, when they're hiking, they could trample and compact the soil where that some of these are. So that is one threat to this species at Window Cliffs. So to end the presentation, right now, I can't speak about any of the statistics that I'm doing in my thesis because I'm still doing those. But I can attest for the number of species that I have accounted and documented. So right now, I have collected 490 species, consisting over 111 families. So in the equisetum group, two species, I documented 23 species of ferns, 74 species of monocots, being such as sedges, grasses, orchids, so forth. And then the dicots was the largest group, consisting of 394 species. So based on this, looking at that diversity, Window Cliffs for a 275-acre plot of land, it has a lot of biodiversity within the margins. And it's one that I'm so glad that is protected because, especially with all these rare and uncommon plants, if it wasn't protected, who knows if they would sustain. So to go to the next slide, I just do want to extend my sincere thanks to Tennessee Tech University, especially the biology department. I do want to recognize my committee, Dr. Sean Krosnick, my advisor, Dr. Bradley Cohen, Dr. Peter Lee, and Dr. Joey Shaw. They are on my committee. They are my committee for my project, and I do thank them for their mentorship and guidance throughout this project. I would like to thank the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, especially Roger McCoy and Todd Crabtree, for their assistance in this project. I would like to recognize Burgess Falls State Park, Nat Garrison, the park manager, also Kristen Willis, park ranger, for their assistance as well. I'd like to thank Tennessee Native Plant Society for encouragement and interest in this work, and also the invitation to do this meeting. And I would also like to thank Harley Leatherman. She was a undergraduate student at Tech, and she assisted me with my collection in the spring of 2024. So without all of these individuals and agencies, this work could have not been done. So I appreciate each and every person that's assisted in this project. Um, so moving on, here's my references. And I've included my Gmail if you want to contact me about anything. I do a lot of botanical photography and a lot of wildlife photography. I have attached both of my usernames for Instagram if you want to contact me on there. I've also attached my iNaturalist username. On iNaturalist, I am a curator and an ambassador for iNaturalist, so I'm pretty active on iNaturalist. So feel free to shoot me a message on there, or just look me up. But with that, I do thank you all for having me. And at this time, I'll take any questions. I'm going to go back to the contact slide if anybody needs to write any of that information down. But now I will take your questions.
That was excellent, Eli.
Oh, thank you.
Just fascinating. Um, um, is that a question or yeah? Um, I have a question about,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to visualize um, how the bluffs are structured, and like you talk a lot about the limestone seepages,
Oh,
meaning
yeah.
that I guess water is constantly flowing underneath or through. Is it the limestone formations with the crevices in them, and then that water, that moisture comes out to pockets of soil that are among the cliffs? Is that what it's like?
So what the limestone seepages are, say this pin is a high bluff. So what happens is you have like a little stream that will flow over this bluff, and then there'll be another bluff down here where my hand is. And that, because you have constant moisture that's pouring over the bluff, it causes that seepage area on that bluff side, and that's where a lot of these uncommon and rare plants are.
I see.
Now, talking about like when the limestone is like flowing or the water is flowing underneath the limestone, that's when I was talking about like the cave system that's
Mhm.
developing. So when you have constant water that's pushing, and it essentially just degrades and erodes that limestone, and that's why the cave is being created. But a lot of these seepage areas, the water is coming from private land onto Window Cliffs, the state natural area. So that's one important thing for the state. If they were ever able to purchase more land around Window Cliffs, they could protect the buffer in the water source above before it goes into the natural area.
Mhm.
But with that, it's privately owned, and who knows if the landowners would be interested in selling their land, or putting a conservation easement on it. That's always a question.
Do you think that there are more rare species that could be lurking in window cliffs that you haven't encountered yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Because Nature Serve, when I was reading about the Appalachia Northern White Cedar Cliff Woodland, it says that not a lot of studies have been done on that ecosystem type because they're so difficult to survey. Because to survey those to a certain standard, you would have to rappel and you would have to hang off the side of cliffs and survey. And for my project, I just didn't have, the resource to do that. And for that, that would be a good PhD project, potentially. There really, in my opinion, there is a lot of research opportunities that could be done at Window Cliffs. Even for an example, like the Plantago cordata. it could be a good project for somebody to look at the water quality of these limestone seepage areas and see how that the pH level or the nutrification would impact certain species. And that's something that I've thought about, and I think that could absolutely be a good project. But I couldn't include it in my project, my master's project now, because I guess that would be more of a PhD project that I would need not just 1 or 2 years to do. It would take more time, to do it.
Mhm.
Eli, have you found things like the trilliums, bloodroot, wild
Mhm.
gingers there at Winter Cliffs?
Yeah, I have. So, I found bloodroot there. I found the dicentra, the squirrel, not the squirrel corn, but the Dutchman's breeches. That's down there. There is several species of trillium. There's a trillium cuneatum, so that's just the common trillium. There is the trillium flexipes, so that's the bent trillium. There's Trillium grandiflora, so that's the large flowered trillium. So I think at Cliffs there's about four, four or five different trillium species, and another one is the Trillium rectorvatum, the bloody nose trillium. That's another one we got down there. So there's a lot of really neat stuff down there. It's exciting. It's like when I go and I survey and I see all these plants, it's exciting, for me because that's what I've studied and that's what I love. So I really enjoy it.
What are some of the native trees that you have found in Winter Cliffs?
Yeah, so at Window Cliffs, you've got a lot of maples. You've got sugar maples, you've got red maples, your oak trees, you got your Quercus. Oh gosh, it's Quercus alba. So that would be the white oak. You have your southern red oak, northern red oak. And there's one, it's Quercus. It starts with an M. It's not chestnut oak. Um, I'm slipping on the name on it, but there's quite a few oak species down there. There's ash trees down there, so that's the Fraxinus, that's the genus. Um, Sourwood, persimmon. Now there are some invasive trees. So you do have your Bradford pears that are down there. But there's a lot of diversity on the tree side, as well, you know. Um, but yeah.
We're at almost 7:45. I'm going to stop the recording, but we can continue on. Um, I think if anyone wants to stay. Um, but Eli, thank you. This was terrific, and this is a good this recording of it will be a great thing for us to be able to review on our archives and go through and look at those photos and descriptions.
Yeah, definitely. In all the photos that I included in this were mine that I personally took, except the photos in the life history, of like Charles Alex Lazure. That I didn't take. I got that off Wikipedia, and then I got the Harper Weekly's cover off the Internet Archive. But all the other images I took, and like I said, anybody can go to the iNaturalist project that I created, and you can view everything that I collected and logged. So that's available if y'all are interested in it.